Welcome back! So every game needs a heart, right? And for my game Dwarf, I made the heart into a gem. I thought it'd be a little more creative. And when you start losing health, it cracks, and then when you die, it shatters. Let me show you. So I'm one of the developers working on Dwarf. It's a tower defense dungeon crawler. And we're doing a Kickstarter this month, so I'd appreciate it if you guys checked it out. So when you die, the heart shatters, and we animated it in Unity. It's actually not frame by frame. I gotta do some Unity tutorials someday. Alright, let's get started. I'm going to teach you how to draw the techniques in a 16 by 16 heart, just so I can draw it faster. So usually in 16 by 16 you don't have a pixel in the center. So what you can do is you can put the heart off to the side a little bit, kind of like we did here, or you can just have a heart that isn't super pointy on the bottom. And that's basically what I'm gonna go for. And I think it's already got a pretty good heart shape. I kind of like to do these fat hearts. You don't have too many options. I think this is pretty much one of the main heart shapes that you're going to use. Of course, we could make this longer if we wanted to, but I think that takes away from the heart shape. I actually kind of like to make the hearts a little bit chunkier, so I might even do something like this on the bottom. It looks a little bit cuter, it looks a little bit more appealing. I don't like to go super red like blood red, because that's not really a pleasant color, and you want to associate the heart with a pleasant color, something that the player wants, right? So I'm gonna go all the way around when I shade this heart. Your instinct might be to just shade the bottom, and that's fine, but I do think that if you shade all the way around, it makes the heart look rounder. But how you would shade a ball isn't just the bottom. If you did this, then you're an amateur. What you should do when you're shading a ball or something round is shade all around, and then you can add more near the bottom, and you can even go darker near the bottom. But when you're shading something round, you really want to shade all the way around, because that's the difference between, imagine this is a side view, that's the difference between a hard corner and a soft corner. You might have noticed that the heart example I had ready to show you guys has almost a purple tint to the shadow, and I love to do this in my art. So for example, this heart right here, it has a good shading. We just went down, right? So the same, going down is kind of like if you go to your HSV slider, which by the way, every art program has this, and you should probably use this for colors. When you're shading, don't just lower the vibrance. What you also want to do is hue shift. You want to either go a little bit left or a little bit right. I like to go a little bit towards blues, usually when I'm going darker, and when I'm going lighter, I like to go a little bit closer to the reds, like yellows or whatever. And now I'm just gonna pick a darker version of that and go ahead and add that. Alright, so now that we have the shading done with this heart, it's time for us to add some highlights. There's a lot of ways that you can highlight the heart. I'll show you a couple of cool ones. A very common thing to do is to add a highlight in the corner and then sort of have a glare on the opposite side. This is a very simple technique that honestly it looks pretty darn good. If you want, you can go to an extreme where you add a highlight all around the top of the heart, and this sort of makes it look a little bit more like a button, or like the top of it is kind of flat. This is kind of the look that I went for with the gem. There's a slight highlight all around the edge, and it looks good if you want to create sort of a hard edge eventually on your heart. But since this one is supposed to be pretty soft and round, I'm only going to add the highlight in the corner. When you add a highlight, just like with shadows, you can also have gradients in your highlights. So we can add white here, and maybe we can add white here. And now it looks like there's a spot in that highlight that is almost flickering or reflecting light. It makes it look more appealing. The more reflections you have in this heart, the more it's gonna look like a collectible, a shiny object. So I'm gonna experiment with adding a ton of highlights into this heart, and then we'll see what looks good. I mean, you really need to experiment and just keep looking at your preview, and sometimes you're gonna overdo it, but other times you're gonna discover something amazing. I'm trying to avoid putting shines everywhere because it can definitely get too shiny. So I kind of have to pick my favorites. I think that's a pretty darn good heart. So I ended up actually changing the entire color in the middle because it just looked better. It looked better because of the gradients. Sometimes you might have two colors and they just don't look good together. One might be too saturated or the hue might be too different. So I think that this is a nice combination of colors to create a nice pink heart. Let's move on to the potions. Potions. So once again, this is a free asset in the Sprite pack. There's going to be a link in the description. And this is the potion that we're using for dwarves, so I'd appreciate if you didn't copy it. But let's get to it. I'm going to show you how to draw a potion. So obviously we want it to have a bottle shape, but there's a lot of bottle shapes that you can do. Do not make the bottom of your bottle that square. Like, please. I've seen that before and it's not a good look. Round the edge. That's all you got to do. All you got to do is that. And then when you draw the top of the bottle, whatever, let's just say this is the top of the bottle. You could have something like this, which almost looks like a jug. But a typical potion bottle, if you want it to look magical, it has that extended, I don't know what that's called, but it has that extended part of the bottle near the top. So we really want to, with pixel art, it's less about it being 100% accurate and it's more about what it represents, making it easy for the person to know what it is that you're drawing. So sometimes it's okay to make things a little bit cartoony. And I think this is a pretty good potion bottle. If we wanted it to look a little more magical, then, you know, we might do something like that. But I think that's, I actually really love that round one. I'm gonna do the same thing here. I kind of love it being this like super generic potion bottle. And let's say this is a health potion. Your instinct might be to just sort of like, you know, fill the health potion like this, like I did over here. But it actually looks like there's glass if you leave a gap around. Today's episode is sponsored by Skillshare. Woo! Okay. Oh. Skillshare is a community where you can learn whatever you like and you don't get graded. So Skillshare has a ton of tutorials, right? And they're very affordable. A year subscription is less than $10 a month. You can learn all sorts of stuff. One of my favorites here is an introduction to pixel art. This is how you get good. And check this out. Like, what is pixel art? You know, pixel art is life. But but for real though, these videos are very informative. Probably a lot more informative than mine. But you get what you pay for, right? My shit's free. If you want to get 2 months free of Skillshare, you can use the link in the description or in the comments that I pinned. And enjoy. Oh, did I say it's the first 1,000 people? I think I did. It's the first 1,000 people. I nailed it. So make sure that you don't bring whatever liquid's inside all the way to the edge. By leaving this thin line, it really makes it look like there's glass there. And then for the liquid that's inside, you should probably do some shading too. So let's just make this red here, like bright red or whatever. So now it looks like there's liquid in here. And the reason why I didn't make it square like this is because, of course, the bottle is round. If the bottle is round, you also have to make the liquid inside look like it's round. The best way to actually do it would probably be something like this. Now it really looks like it's a round bottle. So the top here, it sticks out. So it would create a shadow underneath it. You could, if you wanted to, make the top a lot bigger, and that would give you room to make a sort of like a hole near the top, right? So let's say we did something like this. You could do something like that, but now it starts to look like it's top down. Another thing you could do is, to make it look a little bit less top down, is put the hole closer to the top. So now we still have the hole there, you see that? But by not going all the way around with the glass, it still looks like it's side view. I'm gonna add a little bit more drastic shading here to the top, and the top here would be brighter. I don't think that we can quite see that, so I'm gonna increase the contrast there and go even brighter. Now we have a brighter top, and we can also put these brighter colors near the edges of the bottle here. I'm not going to put it on the center part right here because that's more focused on showing off the shading. Alright, so we have our glares on the bottle. With glares on the bottle, you can really, you know, go all out. You can have some intense, crazy glares and sparkles like I just did there. And honestly, that's kind of fine. But near the bottom, don't forget to shade that as well. So here near the bottom around the liquid, I'm also going to add shading just to make it look like, you know, there's less lighting on the bottom part of the bottle. Something that's kind of fun to do that you could do as well is add a cork near the top. It makes it look a little bit more, it gives it more colors, which personally I think it makes it more appealing if it has more colors. I kind of want to make this look a little bit rounder. A trick that you can do to make it look rounder is do anti-aliasing. What this is called is anti-aliasing. What that does is it smooths it out. And whenever you're coloring, you can do the same thing with coloring as well. So here we have the whites, and by me putting a darker color near the edge, it actually makes it look a little bit rounder. You see that? It's a nice little trick for giving things rounder edges when you really don't have enough pixels to do it. You can do it with color. Alright, now since this is a cork up here, I think it would make sense that the outline for this would be dark brown. And I also want to make the top of this a darker gray, just because I love to use I love to do shading in my outlines as well. I think it gives it more form. Now remember that this part right here has shading because it's creating a shadow, right? Well, it would do that for the outline too. So I'm also going to add black right there to show that there's a shadow being cast even on the outline. But see how I have 2 layers here of shading? So I should have 2 layers of shading in the outline as well. I'm just gonna pick my black, go to about 50% opacity, and add that there and there. And there we go. Now we have the outline shaded too. And we got a pretty swank looking potion bottle, if I don't say so.
Yeah, I think that looks good.
Let's add a shadow. What I did here, by doing something like this, it makes it look like the liquid isn't super uniform, right? It makes it look like there's reflections in the liquid. So it's kind of cool if when you're shading it to have a couple of different colors. I'm gonna add a glare there, maybe there. So just a reminder, these are free for you to use in your games. The link's in the description to the sprite pack. You should subscribe and keep watching. I'm basically making free pixel art assets for your game as we're learning this. Pretty cool, right? See you guys next week. Dev Live. Was that shit funny?